Shabbat Shalom. My name is Rabbi Rachel Martyr, and I'm a rabbi at Congregation Bethel in South Orange, and I'm very honored to be bringing you a bit of Torah on Parshat Vayekel. The Torah details this week all of the materials that the Israelite women and men brought to contribute to the building of the Mishkan, the temporary sanctuary in the desert. It details the acacia wood, the copper, the gold, the silver, and the fine linens that the people brought with generosity of heart. But are all of these materials meant just to be beautiful and to glorify God, or perhaps do they tell a deeper story that can guide us today? I'd like to focus in on one of those materials and the story I believe it tells about our people. In Exodus chapter 38, verse 8, the Torah teaches, Vayas et hakiyor nechoshet vet kano nechoshet b'marot hatzvaot asher tzavu petach ohel moed. Betzalel, the chief craftsman of the Mishkan, made a basin of copper and a stand out of copper. And where did this copper come from? It came from the mirrors of the tzvaot. That is, women who served or performed tasks at the entrance of the tent of meeting at the Mishkan. So we know that this basin was used by the priests in order to wash and purify themselves. We don't, as a side note, we don't know what the women did in their service at the tent of meeting, but I love to note that in addition to bringing materials to build the Mishkan, it's clear that the women were also involved in some of the service that took place there, which is wonderful. Women were not kept out of the religious and spiritual realm altogether. They were clearly participants in it as well. But where did these copper mirrors come from? Midrash Tanchuma offers us a backstory to the mirrors. The Midrash teaches that in Egypt, these were mirrors that the Israelite women would use to adorn themselves. They were everyday objects for the women. And when they brought them to contribute to the Mishkan, Moshe was going to reject them. He thought, these are mirrors, they promote vanity, they don't have a place in the sacred building of the Mishkan. But the Holy Blessed One rebuked Moshe and said, accept them. These mirrors are dearer to me than all the other contributions, because it is through them that the women reared those huge hosts, tzvaot, in Egypt. That is, the mirrors actually led to our growth, to our huge numbers and our flourishing as a people while still in slavery in Egypt. These mirrors are precious to me, God says, because they led to the building up of the Jewish people. And while Pharaoh sought the destruction of baby boys and of family life in Egypt, the Israelite women resisted the decree. So how did the mirrors accomplish this? The Midrash explains that when the Israelite men were tired and broken down from a day of slavery, the Israelite women would bring them food and drink, and they would also visit them with their mirrors. And they would look into the mirrors with their husbands and flirt with them. They would say things like, I am more beautiful than you. And this would somehow awaken their husbands' affections to be intimate with them. And they would then have children. And it was through the mirrors then that the Israelite women ensured the continuation, not only of family life, but our entire existence in the next generation. They ensured the existence of the Jewish people out of slavery. Moshe did not understand the women's gifts of mirrors. He didn't see their value, the depth of generosity, and the courage and hope that they actually represented. And I love this story because it highlights the gifts of women not only in the creation of the Mishkan, but in their role of a building project that helped liberate us from slavery. And I love that when we look at the Mishkan, the sacred building, we're reminded of that first building project that Israelite women undertook back in Egypt, the building up of our people despite slavery and oppressive forces. The copper mirrors and all the other precious materials are sacred because they should remind us of actually that which is most sacred, hope. The brightness of the copper symbolizes the hope and the courage of the Israelite women who took their liberation, our people's liberation, into their own hands. The mirrors brought together hopeful, loving partners, and then they became sacred instruments in the building of the Mishkan. And I hope that the women today, our ancient Israelite ancestors, can inspire us not to despair by our own crushing labor and by our own challenges, but rather to take initiative when we can, to begin where we are and achieve our own liberation. And I hope that when we look into mirrors, we see not only our physical appearance as we would the physical appearance of the Mishkan, but rather we see that which is contained inside each of us, our courage, our hope, our wisdom, and our strength. Shabbat Shalom.